This is for class 9. We are continuing with the chapter, the fundamental unit of life, the cell. In the last part, we have started with the three main components of any cell, that is cell membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm, right? So we have already started with the cell membrane. We have seen what is a cell membrane, then what are the different functions of cell membrane, all those things we have seen. See, in that we have seen what is permeability, right? And we have also seen what is active and passive transport. So the basic difference between active and passive transport is, in active transport there is use of energy in movements of molecules from lower concentration to higher concentration, whereas in passive transport molecules move from higher concentration to lower concentration without expenditure of energy. And we have also seen that diffusion and osmosis are the types of passive transport. So let's see diffusion today, diffusion and osmosis. Okay, what is diffusion? It is the transport of materials. Which materials? Solids, liquids and gases from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration, right? So it is nothing but movement of particles. Which particles? The particles can be solid, liquid or gas particles, but they always move from higher concentration where their number is more to a region of lower concentration where their number is less. Now let's understand this diffusion with the help of this diagram, which clearly tells what is diffusion. See, this line, this line is nothing but a cell membrane. So how is the cell membrane? We already know that cell membrane is a selectively permeable membrane. Selectively permeable means it allows solvent molecules to move in and out of the cell, but it allows only few solid molecules to move in and out of the cell. So here now two types of particles are available over here. These bigger particles are sugar molecules and these smaller particles are water particles, and this is a cell membrane, right? So what is this area? This area is external environment to the cell or outside the cell, and this side, the right side of this membrane is nothing but inside of the cell. Now what is happening? Just see, outside the cell, in the external environment, water molecules are more in number. This we can see over here, right? Higher concentration of water molecules. यहाँ पे water molecules का concentration बहुत ज़्यादा है, right? And inside the cell, only few water molecules are present, right? So lower concentration of water molecules is there. Now what happens in diffusion? As per the definition, there is a net movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration. The molecules can be solid, liquid or gas. So the particles can be solid, liquid or gas. So in this case, as we are considering water molecules, so liquid particles we are considering. So as concentration is more over here and less over here, so to attain equilibrium, to make both the sides equal, what will happen? Water molecules will start moving from this region to this region. So this process of movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration is called as diffusion. But in this case, we can see that sugar molecules are bigger in size, so they can't pass through these pores of cell membrane. So there is no movement of sugar molecules outside the cell, because see what is happening. Inside the cell, sugar molecules are more in number. Outside the cell, we can't see any sugar molecule present over here. But why there is no movement of sugar molecules from this side to this side? Because of the smaller size of the pores. The sugar molecules are bigger in size. These pores are smaller in size. So these molecules cannot move outside the cell. But water molecules can easily pass through this semi-permeable membrane, right? So there is a movement of net movement of water molecules from outside to inside the cell, and this process is called as diffusion. Why diffusion takes place? To attain equilibrium, so that total number of water molecules outside the cell is equal to total number of water molecules inside the cell. So this is diffusion. Now let's see this in more detail. Suppose, let's take an example. I have a beaker of water, and in that beaker what I am doing, I am placing a crystal of copper sulfate at the bottom, right? We know that copper sulfate is soluble in water, right? It forms a blue colored solution. So initially what happens, I am taking a big crystal of copper sulfate and water. So initially both of them remain separated, but after some time what will happen, the area of water, this much portion, I will see some blue color will spread in this region initially. It means, and this is very light, like transparent, like water only it will look like, but this much area will look little bit blue in color. So why does this happen? The crystal of copper sulfate starts breaking into smaller particles. We have already seen particulate nature of matter in the first chapter. So same thing is happening. This crystal starts dividing itself into smaller and smaller particles, and these particles will move from higher concentration to lower concentration. So initially blue color will be seen over here. Then after some time I will see that the entire water has become blue. So it becomes blue colored solution of copper sulfate. Now how does this happen exactly? Because initially only crystal was present over here. Now how does it spread in the entire solution? That we have to understand. So we will understand this step by step. So what is happening? Just look over here. This is a beaker. So initially the particles of copper sulfate are in this region only, at the bottom only, right? And because of diffusion, what is diffusion? Diffusion is nothing but intermixing of particles. Which particles? Copper sulfate particles and water particles on their own without expenditure of energy. This we have already said that diffusion is a type of passive transport, right? So there is no need of energy, so no expenditure of energy. So initially copper sulfate particles are concentrated in this region. So to attain equilibrium, some will start spreading. So they will spread like this. They will try to mix with the water molecules. So there is a movement of copper sulfate particles in this direction and movement of water particles from in the reverse direction. Then they will spread more, right? And after some time we see that the copper sulfate particles are uniformly distributed in the solution. So this is the end product which we are getting. So what is this process called as diffusion? So we can say in short that diffusion, that is movement of copper sulfate particles, is in this direction and movement of water particles is in the reverse direction. So in this way a homogeneous solution is, or a uniform solution of copper sulfate is formed due to the process of diffusion. So see, similar type of things, same things are happening in the living cells also. So what is happening in the cell? Just look over here. This is any cell, right? This dotted portion is nothing but this area is nothing but the cytoplasm. This is the nucleus of the cell. This region we will call as inside of cell, and this region is called as the outside of the cell, right? So okay, so this is outside, this is external environment to the cell. So suppose, for example, here in the external region or in the external environment, lot of water particles we can see crowded, right? Water particles are crowded over here. So concentration of water particles is more in the external environment, whereas inside the cell, as compared to external environment, the number of water particles are less. So what will happen? To attain equilibrium, to make water particles same on both the sides, that is inside and outside the cell, what will happen? There will be net movement of water particles from outside to inside of the cell, right? So what is this process called as? This is called as diffusion, right? So I hope this diffusion is becoming more and more clear to you now. So if it would have been reversed, that in the external environment there are less water particles and inside the cell there are more water particles, then there will be net movement of water particles from inside to outside the cell. It would have been reversed, right? So same thing is happening during respiration also, in the respiration of plants. So how does it take place? Again, due to diffusion. Now let's try to understand that. See, during respiration what is happening? CO2 is given out and oxygen is taken in. So how does this happen automatically? How CO2 is given out of the cell and how oxygen is getting inside the cell, right? So how does it happen? Let's see that. See, how does exchange of gases takes place in plants? We know that it takes place through stomata. Stomata always opens and close, right? So what happens? See, in the stomata is a cell. The two guard cells are present in stomata. So what happens here in the guard cells? The concentration during respiration process, the concentration of carbon dioxide molecules or carbon dioxide particles becomes more. So CO2 is more in the guard cells, right? And in the external environment, that is in the air, what is more, what is less, whose concentration is becoming less? CO2 is less as compared to stomata. So what will happen? Stomata will open and CO2 will come out of it, right? So why CO2 will come out? To attain equilibrium, and this process is called as diffusion. Similarly, what happens? As see in the here in the stomata, the percentage or the concentration of CO2 is more, it means concentration of oxygen is less, right? And in the external environment, concentration of oxygen is more. So during respiration, what happens? As concentration of carbon dioxide in the stomata has increased as compared to external environment, CO2 will be released, and as concentration of oxygen is less inside and more outside, it will be absorbed. So what is that process called as? It is called as respiration. So again, respiration is based on the process which is called as diffusion, right? So in this case, diffusion of gases is taking place. Which gases? Carbon dioxide and oxygen. Similarly, during transpiration also, what is transpiration? It is nothing but water is given out of the plant body in the form of water vapor. That is excess water is given out. So that process is called as transpiration. So how does transpiration take place? When inside the plant or in the leaf, the percentage of water becomes more, and in the external environment, it becomes less. So due to diffusion of liquids, as we are talking about water, so diffusion of liquids we will talk about. So the excess water which is present in the leaf, again the stomata will get opened and the excess water is given out or it is expelled into the environment through the process of diffusion. So diffusion is very, very important. So let's see what is the importance of diffusion. See, some important functions of diffusion. Let's take a look at it. Importance of diffusion. Gaseous exchange. We have already seen this. Gaseous exchange. During respiration, CO2 is given out, O2 is taken in through the process of diffusion. Then osmosis. What is osmosis? Osmosis is nothing but a special type of diffusion only. It is type of diffusion only, but in osmosis only solvent particles, that is liquid particles, move from higher concentration to lower concentration. Just like we have seen this osmosis in here also. When I explain to you about the cell, see in this diagram also I have told you, see here osmosis is taking place, right? Osmosis means net movement of liquid particles from outside to inside or vice versa. It depends upon the condition, right? So osmosis is nothing but a special type of diffusion. Then it helps in spread of various substances throughout cytoplasm of a cell. What does this mean? See, this is a cell, this is a cell, any cell. So suppose in this particular region of a cell, suppose concentration of water molecules become more, right, in the cytoplasm, and here in the other region it becomes less. So by diffusion only there will be uniform distribution of water molecules throughout the cytoplasm of the cell. So again, how does it take place? Through diffusion only. That is why we say that it helps in spread of various substances throughout cytoplasm of a cell. Then transpiration also I have already explained. When the concentration of water inside the plant becomes more, and it needs to excrete that water in the form of transpiration. So how does it take place? Again, through the process of diffusion. Then aroma. Now, aroma means smell, good smell, which comes from fruit, ripened fruits or flowers, right? So how does it help the plant? See, whenever good aroma or smell comes out of a ripened fruit or some flower, so what happens due to diffusion? Now, which type of diffusion is taking place? Diffusion of gases is taking place, as we are talking about the smell. So this good smell mixes with the particles of air, that is intermixing of particles is taking place, which is called as diffusion. And slowly due to the current, air current, it reaches to animals, birds, insects, and these animals, birds, insects get attracted towards these ripened fruits or flowers, and this helps the flower in pollination and in seed dispersal. So see how important this diffusion process is. Osmosis we will be taking in the next part. Thank you for now.